So here we are shipping another Jeep. This happens to be a pretty heavy four-door. It's got an LS3 in it and it's going to Colorado. We're on a trail up at about 9,000 feet. I pushed it pretty hard coming up and we're running 217 degrees. We're not running the Pentstar fan in this. We're actually running a Camaro fan. And we've got a couple of versions of that Camaro fan. This LS3 is really the pinnacle of the Gen 4 engines, in my opinion. It's old-fashioned. It's a pushrod, non-VVT, non-AFM engine. Pretty much the last of the hot rod engines, I think. Not that the new Gen 5s aren't great engines. They went to more advanced technology, direct injection, continuous VVT, all that. So they're great motors. But as far as the traditional engine design goes, I think the LS3 is about the pinnacle. And if you were to do a swap today, and I get this question a lot, do I go with the LS3 or do I go with the Gen 5? Well, it really depends on what your needs are. They perform very similar power-wise. When you load them down, what we found, that means you get 3 or 4 guys, all their gear in a heavy four-door, loaded up. You're going to see that the economy is not that much different. Maybe 1 to 2 miles to the gallon advantage to the Gen 5. Now, when lightly loaded, the Gen 5 has an advantage because it can use its enhanced AFM and continuous VVT to get better gas mileage. So I wouldn't say there's a dramatic difference in economy when you're loaded up on a trip. Now that might change when we start testing the Gen 5 5.3s, but at least with a 6.2, that's what we've shown. The LS3 has proven to be really reliable. It's a simple engine, and not having the AFM lifters or the complexity of variable valve timing means there's less parts in it, less things to go wrong. The downside of the LS3 is that it does require premium gas and synthetic oil. It's a little more costly to maintain, but really not that much when you consider you only have to change the oil maybe once every 5,000 miles. The performance of the LS3 is great. Now, there's different LS3s. You've got the production 430 horse, which came in the Camaro and the Corvette. The 480 horse, which GM is rating at 495 now. I guess they put some stiffer valve springs in it. And the 525 horse. My recommendation is just stay with the 430 horse. It's such a mild engine. Just cruising along on this trail, it runs like a V6. Sounds a lot better, but dead smooth. Idles rock solid. You can crawl with it all day. It'll run cool. It's just a great motor. So if you want to get a little more power out of it, the LS3 is probably the best supported engine of all the Gen 4, actually probably more than the small blocks today in the aftermarket. Cams, blowers, superchargers, anything you want is available for the LS3. It's an international engine. They're running all over the country as well as the world. We see a lot of them in competition. King of the Hammers, Baja, Outback, Challenge. We see these LS3s running where you really wouldn't want to take a Hemi. It's a lightweight engine, about 400 pounds, so it's really not much more than a 3.8. It is heavier than the 3.6 Pentstar because the 3.6 Pentstar is all aluminum, but you're not going to really notice any difference in handling because that weight's down low and back further. We're starting to run these motors a little bit warmer. We're making the fans a little bit less aggressive. What we're finding is a little bit of economy. These LS engines don't mind running at 220, 230. GM doesn't really start winding the fan up till 226. So we've been experimenting with running them a little bit warmer. Now we don't want to see them running at 240, 250, but 215, 220, 225 is no issue at all, and we're actually seeing slightly better economy numbers and probably better emission numbers when you warm up the combustion chambers. So we're going to be playing around with that rather than try to run them down at 195 or 200 like we did in the old days. So the LS3 it's just a good all-around engine, and any of you considering going between the Gen 5 and the LS3, I don't think you can go wrong either way. The Gen 5s are not that well supported yet, meaning you're not going to find a lot of aftermarket components for it, but we pioneered the Gen 4 swap back in 2007, and back then the Gen 4s were not well supported either. Everybody was running the Gen 3s. We were running the Gen 4s back in 07, and it really wasn't until about 10 or 11 that we saw the aftermarket catch up with it and guys starting to do Gen 4 swaps. Now we're on the forefront of the Gen 5 swap, and we're again on the leading edge, having a functional 6.2 and 5.3 Gen 5 swap. We got tap shift. We're still working on cruise control. Not that we can't get it to work, but we're trying to build in all the safety protocols, and it's been difficult with the new operating systems containing radar, and there's so many inhibitors to cruise control to keep it safe. We're trying to work within that, and we're going to get it and support it just like we did with the Gen 4s, but we want to make sure that we do it right. So if you want to do a swap today with a 6.2, you get about 440, 450 horsepower. You can't go wrong with the LS3 or the Gen 5. I would probably look at what your vehicle you have. If you have a 14, 15, go ahead with the Gen 5. If you have an 07 or 8 JK, you can't go wrong with the LS3. They're available new in a crate motor for about $6,000. You get a 3 or 100,000 mile warranty on most of them, and they're emissions compliant in a lot of these JKs, so I wouldn't bypass it. Now, as far as the truck 6.2s and the 5.3s go, and the 6.0s, they're great motors too, but remember, GM went out of production of most of those engines in 2014 when the Gen 5 engines were released. I really like the 6-liter. I think it's a bargain. I know it's a iron blocked engine, but the durability and the longevity and the power that the 6.0 offers, combined with the fact you can run it on regular gas and non-synthetic oil, means it's probably the best swap value for dollar. The 6.2 truck engines are great, just like the LS3. There's just not as many of them out there now because they're out of production. 5.3 I would only install in a light JK. These JKs are pretty heavy, they're not very aerodynamic, and the 5.3, while it will do what you want it to do, it'll get you up to the speed limit and haul your JK around, it just won't do it as efficiently as the larger displacement engines, mostly because the inherent torque in the larger displacement engines more efficiently move weight. Now, if you have a light JK, plastic fenders, plastic bumpers, no winch, 32-inch tires, minimal lift, the 5.3 is great. In fact, my wife drives one, and we can break 20 miles to the gallon on road trips. But if you have a heavy JK, you got armor on it, you got 35s, 37s, don't waste your time with a 5.3, just go to the 6.0. Alright, so we'll be shipping this one tomorrow, and then we got another one that we're going to be shipping early next week. See you then. Alright, here's one more cool thing you can do. We just came down this mountain about, I don't know, 8-10 miles. We're in cruise control right now, and I'm in 6th gear. So, while in cruise control, we can downshift it. See, we're in 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th. This cruise will hold within 1 mile an hour, even while tap shifting. This is all being done through the body control module. Now don't get me wrong, it is being done through the engine control module and the transmission control module, but it's the body control module that's orchestrating this. Pretty amazing that you can jump RPM so dramatically, RPM mat shift, and hold within 1 mile an hour. That's what happens when everything is properly coordinated.